Have you ever considered that hell isn't a place you go to after you die, but a state you can become right here, right now? What if the most terrifying damnation isn't about external flames, but an internal emptiness, a self-imposed exile from everything good, true, and beautiful? J.R.R. Tolkien, the brilliant mind behind The Lord of the Rings, a devout Catholic, understood this terrifying possibility perhaps better than anyone. He didn't just write fantasy, he wove profound spiritual truths into the very fabric of Middle-earth. And one of his most chilling insights is that we don't just go to hell, we can become it. This isn't about a future judgment, it's about a present reality we can construct, brick by painful brick, within our own souls. Tolkien, a man whose faith deeply permeated his literary creations, masterfully illustrated this concept of an internal, self-made hell through one of fiction's most tragic and recognizable figures, Gollum. His story is a blueprint for how this horrifying transformation occurs. Think about Gollum. He wasn't born a monster. He was once Smeagol, a hobbit-like creature, living a simple life, part of a community. But then came the Ring, the One Ring, an object of immense power and terrible corruption. The moment Smeagol laid eyes on it, a seed of darkness was planted. This is the first stage, the allure, the temptation. The ring promised something, power, uniqueness, perhaps just sheer covetous desire. His desire for it was so immediate, so consuming, that he committed a horrific act. He murdered his own cousin, Diogo, to possess it. This act, this terrible choice, was the initial compromise, the violent severing of a bond, the first major step on his descent.
The ring didn't immediately turn him into the wretched creature we know. That's crucial. Hell isn't usually an overnight transformation. It was a slow burn, a gradual erosion of his soul, a process of acclimatization to darkness. He retreated with his precious, entering a stage of secrecy and isolation. He hid in dark caves, cut off from sunlight, from community, from love, from the very things that nurtured the soul. The ring became his world, his only focus, his idol. It whispered lies to him, fed his paranoia, and twisted his mind. He began to forget his own name, his own identity, a stage of losing the true self. He became Gollum, named for the guttural swallowing sound he made in his throat, a sound perhaps echoing the emptiness growing within him, the good being choked out. Tolkien shows us that Gollum's hell wasn't a fiery pit waiting for him. It was the life he chose, the person he allowed himself to become, through countless smaller choices that followed the first big one. He became a slave to his obsession. His body withered. His eyes grew pale and luminous for the dark. His mind fractured into two warring personalities, the remnants of Smeagol, capable of fleeting moments of kindness and regret, and the dominant Gollum, consumed by suspicion, hatred, and the gnawing need for the ring. This internal division, the civil war within the soul, was his hell. He was living a perpetual nightmare of his own making, characterized by increasing negativity and spiritual numbness. He couldn't trust anyone, couldn't love anything but the ring, which ironically brought him nothing but misery and further isolation. Even when Frodo showed him kindness, a brief flicker of Smeagol seemed to emerge, a desperate hope for redemption. But the hold of the ring, the hell he had nurtured for centuries, the path he had walked for so long, was too strong. He couldn't let go, perhaps because the Gollum self had become so dominant, so ingrained that the idea of existing without the ring was more terrifying than the misery it caused. This is the stage of deep entrapment, where the thought of change seems impossible, or the perceived cost too high. His final act, plunging into the fires of Mount Doom to reclaim his precious, wasn't him being sent to hell. It was the ultimate physical manifestation of the hell he had already become. He was consumed by the very thing that defined his wretched existence. His soul, utterly given over to its idol.
Tolkien understood sin not merely as rule-breaking, but as a distortion of good, a turning away from the light, from God's intended design for us. Evil, in his legendarium, is often a marring or a mockery of good. Sauron, the Dark Lord, couldn't create. He could only corrupt and twist what was already good. The orcs were corrupted elves. The ring itself was made with the intention to dominate, to control, to reduce all wills to one, a profound spiritual evil. Gollum's story is a terrifying parable of what happens when we allow an obsession, a resentment, a pride, or any consuming desire to become the center of our lives, eclipsing everything else, especially our connection to God and to others. He chose the ring over friendship, over his own identity, over light, over goodness. And in doing so, he constructed his own prison, his own personal hell. He wasn't just in darkness, he became darkness. He became the embodiment of his chosen corruption. This isn't unique to Gollum in Tolkien's world. Think of Saruman, the wise wizard who fell to pride and the lust for power. He too went through stages: initial noble intent, the allure of the ring's power for good as he rationalized it, leading to secret studies, isolation in his tower, Orthanc, and eventually his mind becoming a fortress of dark thoughts and schemes. He too began to construct his own hell, losing his wisdom, his connection to the good, becoming a pale imitation of the Dark Lord he sought to emulate or supplant. His end was pathetic, a diminished spirit, a testament to a soul that had withered by its own choices, trapped in bitterness and petty malice. Tolkien's Catholic faith taught him about free will and consequence. Our choices matter. They shape us. They can lead us toward light, toward communion, toward God, or they can lead us into shadow, into isolation, into a state of being that is in essence hell. Hell, in this understanding, isn't so much a geographical location ruled by a horned demon, but the irreversible state of having chosen oneself, one's own ego, one's own desires over God, over love, over good, to the point where one becomes fixed in that rebellion and misery. It's the ultimate isolation, the soul turned in on itself, finding nothing but ashes.
Now let this sink in. This isn't just a story about a fictional creature and a magic ring. This is a profound spiritual warning for every single one of us, mapping out a perilous journey we can all unknowingly embark upon. Maybe you're going through something right now where you feel an unhealthy attachment forming. It might not be a physical object like the One Ring, but the process, the stages of becoming an internal hell are eerily similar. Consider the ring of career obsession. It often starts with noble intentions, providing for your family, achieving something meaningful, using your talents. That's the initial allure. But then come the compromises, missing important family moments for just one more project, cutting ethical corners for a promotion, seeing colleagues not as collaborators, but as rivals to be overcome. You begin to isolate yourself, your world shrinking to your office, your performance metrics. You rationalize, I'm doing this for them, even as they see less and less of you. Your identity becomes the executive, the achiever, and the person underneath, the spouse, parent, friend, starts to fade. Negativity creeps in, stress, impatience, a constant fear of failure. You become spiritually numb, unable to enjoy simple pleasures, always chasing the next goal, which, like the ring for Gollum, never brings lasting satisfaction, only a fleeting hit before the craving returns. You become trapped, defined by your ambition, your internal landscape, a barren office of anxiety. Or what about the ring of social media validation? It begins innocently, connecting with friends, sharing experiences. But soon, the allure of likes, shares, and followers can become a powerful pull. The compromise? Spending hours curating a perfect online persona, sacrificing authenticity for applause. You start to isolate yourself from genuine face-to-face interaction, preferring the curated connections of the screen. You rationalize your screen time. It's for networking. I'm staying informed, even as your real-world relationships wither. Your identity becomes tied to your online engagement, your mood swinging with the tide of notifications. Negativity festers. Comparison, envy, anxiety about missing out, outrage addiction. A spiritual numbness sets in. You find it hard to be present in the moment, your mind always elsewhere, craving the next digital hit. You become trapped in a cycle of seeking validation from strangers, your inner peace sacrificed to an algorithm. You become a shell, reflecting online trends rather than your own soul.
Think about the ring of resentment and unforgiveness. Someone hurts you deeply. The initial pain is real, justified. But then you pick up that hurt, that memory, and it becomes your precious. You hold on to it. The compromise is refusing to let go, refusing to consider forgiveness, not for their sake, but for yours. You isolate yourself in your bitterness, replaying the offense endlessly, building walls around your heart. You rationalize, they don't deserve forgiveness. I can't forget what they did. Your identity becomes the wounded one, the betrayed. Slowly, this resentment colors everything. Joy becomes difficult, trust impossible. You see potential hurts everywhere. A spiritual numbness takes over. The capacity for love, for joy, for peace diminishes, choked by the poison of bitterness. You become trapped in the past, a prisoner of your own making, your soul a dark cave echoing with old pains. You become the embodiment of that lingering pain. And then there's the insidious ring of comfort and apathy. Its allure is peace, the avoidance of stress and difficulty. I just want an easy life. The initial compromise might seem small, avoiding a difficult conversation, choosing distraction over duty, opting out of challenges that could lead to growth. Slowly, you isolate yourself from anything that demands effort or discomfort. You rationalize, I deserve to relax. Life is hard enough. Your identity becomes someone who goes with the flow, but the flow is leading nowhere. A creeping negativity takes hold, not overt anger, but boredom, a sense of meaninglessness, a quiet despair. Spiritual numbness is its hallmark. You feel little, engage little, risk little. You become trapped in a small, safe, but ultimately suffocating world. Your soul, unchallenged and unexercised, atrophies. This too is a kind of hell. A gray, featureless existence, devoid of passion, purpose, or deep connection. You become the shadow of the vibrant being you were meant to be. These are just a few examples. Your ring might be an addiction to substances, numbing pain but destroying your life. It might be an ideological fervor that starts with a desire for justice but twists into hatred and dehumanization of anyone who disagrees. It could be the pursuit of romantic love as the ultimate savior, leading to a string of broken relationships and a hollow heart when no human can fill that God-shaped void. In each case, the process is similar. Allure, compromise, secrecy and isolation, rationalization, loss of true self, growing negativity and spiritual numbness, and finally, a deep sense of entrapment. You find yourself becoming less joyful, less kind, less hopeful, less you. That's the Gollum effect. That's the whisper of an internal hell taking root. It's when your thoughts circle endlessly around that one thing, that one hurt, that one desire, and everything else fades into the background. Your world shrinks, your heart hardens. You might find yourself saying and doing things that the old you would never have countenanced, ashamed to look in the mirror. Tolkien knew this. He knew that the grand battles between good and evil are not just fought on epic battlefields with swords and sorcery, but within the quiet, often unseen landscape of the human heart. Every day we make choices. Do we choose patience, or do we snap in anger? Do we choose forgiveness, or do we let bitterness fester? Do we choose gratitude, or do we succumb to envy? Do we seek connection, or do we retreat into isolation? Do we feed the Smeagol within, or the Gollum? These small daily choices are the stones with which we build either a sanctuary for our soul or a prison. The hell Tolkien warns us about isn't a sudden cataclysm, it's a slow slide, a series of seemingly minor compromises and unchecked desires that gradually reshape our character, our spirit, until we look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back, a person increasingly cut off from joy, from peace, from love, from God. It's the misery of a soul turned inward on itself, finding no light there, only the echo of its own consuming emptiness. But here's the crucial difference between us and Gollum's ultimate fate in the story. For us, as long as there is breath, there is hope. There is a chance to turn back, to interrupt the process. Unlike Gollum, who was too far gone, or so the narrative tragically suggests for its own purposes, we can recognize the rings in our lives. We can, with courage, and often with help, from faith, from community, from therapy, from loved ones, choose to identify these patterns. We can acknowledge the compromises, challenge the rationalizations, and begin the hard work of letting them go. We can choose to step out of the shadows and back into the light. The path to becoming a self-made hell is paved with choices that elevate something other than God and good to the supreme place in our hearts. The path away from it is paved with conscious choices that reorient us towards love, towards service, towards humility, towards truth, and towards the divine. It's the misery of a soul turned inward on itself, finding no light there, only the echo of its own consuming emptiness. So, I want to ask you, and I really want you to think about this, perhaps more deeply than you have before. What are the rings in your life? What are those things, those habits, those thoughts, or those desires that you feel are pulling you away from the person you want to be, the person God calls you to be? Can you identify any stages of this becoming process in your own experience, even in small ways? The initial allure, the subtle compromises, the moments of isolation or rationalization. Have you ever felt that chilling sensation of becoming your own Gollum, obsessed and isolated by something, losing a part of your true self in the process? What does Tolkien's vision of an internal hell mean to you in your own spiritual journey or understanding of life? How does it challenge or affirm your beliefs? Please share your reflections in the comments below. This is a deep topic and it can be uncomfortable, but I believe that by sharing our struggles and insights with honesty and compassion, we can help each other choose the path of light, the path of connection, the path that leads not to becoming a hell, but to becoming more fully, beautifully, and divinely human. What choice, however small, will you make today to step away from any shadow and towards that light? Let's talk about it. Let's support each other on this journey.